Hello all, welcome to the Windows API exploitation recipes for red blue teams on Pentester Academy. Now in the last video, we saw the basics of reading another process's memory, right, using the tool help API. Now in this video, we are going to use another API called ReadProcessMemory to do exactly the same thing. So as I've already mentioned, reading process memory, it's generally a good idea so that you have debug privileges. This allows you to read all processes on the system, right, apart from protected processes. And the API in this example will be read process memory. Now, read process memory is similar to the one which we saw in the last video, and it takes in a handle to the process's input, which in the previous case was the PID, and then takes the base address from where to read, the buffer to store it into, the size of the chunk to read, and then of course we get back the number of bytes we have actually read. So let's jump right in. Show me the code. Okay. So the victim process is identical to what we used in the previous video. All it does is writes a buffer and just waits. So let's have a look at that. All of these code files should be downloadable from under this video on Pentester Academy. Okay, so just to jog our memory, all this does is writes to a buffer and the message is I am secure, right? And then it just waits for the reader process or the attacker process to read its memory. Okay, so let's go ahead, build this. Let's close this and let's go ahead and run this binary. So there we go, we have run the binary and it says its PID is 4024. The message is I am secure and that's the address where the message is displayed. Okay, let's minimize this. Now let's look at our memory reading process code, right? This is the attacker process code. So let's have some fun. So let's open this up. Now, one of the main things is if we wanted to use this API, we need to make sure that we have a handle to the process whose memory we'd like to read. And this handle must have a process VM read access to that process, okay? And if you searched for all of these access rights, what you'd find is that if you had already debug privileges, well, pretty much all of these rights are automatically granted to you. So let's go back. Now at the top I have, enabled debug ability if we can do it. And then we open up the victim process with a process VM read option. And once we do that, we try to read the process memory using read process memory, pass it the handle, the address where we want to read, the number of bytes, and all the other stuff which we've talked about, right? Extremely simple code to illustrate a fairly interesting and useful concept. So let me run this. Let's close this window. Now, the only important thing is make sure that both binaries are 64-bit. So I'm going to go inside 64 debug. Here it is. Let's open up a command prompt because this would require inputs to be given. Change directory. Now, the first input, of course, is going to be the PID. The PID, as we can see, is 4024. So let's put that in. The second input is going to be the address to read, which is this address. There we go. Let's hit an enter. And as you can see, we've succeeded and it says read, I am secure. Fantastic. Now, as we saw in the last video, of course, if we are trying to read process memory of a process created under the same user, well, this is probably the easiest of all. Let's now try to read this process's memory from another user. So let's go ahead, copy this out, allow this to stay running. Let's copy this to Notepad. And let's also copy the attacker read binary to a common location from where the other user can invoke it. So I'm going to paste this to C drive. And then I'm going to switch and become the other user, who is John. So let's log in as John. And now first we'll try to read this without trying to acquire any additional privileges. And you'll actually see that that would fail. So let me open up a command prompt. Go over to C drive. Run the binary. Let's actually give it the inputs 4024 followed by the address to read. Now keep in mind, this is not a privileged prompt. This is really just us running a prompt as John. And if you notice, it immediately gives you an error which is access denied. So OpenProcess unfortunately isn't able to get virtual memory read writes, right? This is expected. So in order to be able to do this, we are going to create an elevated process. So run this as admin. Let's change over to C drive. And there you go. Now we have success reading the other process's memory. So the key thing, if you're noticing, is for any useful, kind of value of this entire process, we need to make sure that we have sufficient privileges so that we can run and go ahead and be able to read any other process's memory. Okay, fantastic. In the next video, we'll do something interesting. We won't just read, but we will go ahead and write into the process memory of another process. So that's all I had in mind for this video. If you are enjoying your time on Pentester Academy, then please do recommend us to your friends and colleagues in the InfoSec community. Thank you.